City. I can talk a little bit of a background about myself and what I do, and we can continue with the questions and what you want to know. In my current firm, we build strategies and architecture and experiences in general. And we specialize in high-end office buildings and retail, mixed use. Also residential and educational on occasion. The project I'm currently working on is called Pen 2. That's what I had the deadline with. It gets its name from one of the major hubs in New York City called Penn Station. There are 3 hubs here for buses and for trains to come in a certain focal points. And this one is very old. It has a historical meaning. And around this train station, there are high-rise buildings, of course, New York City. And the ones around this Penn Station is owned by a certain ownership. They are all owned by the same ownership. And now we are working with them to improve their interiors and helping them renovate some parts of the buildings, including some lobbies, some office spaces, and some rooftops. Yeah, this is about the project that I'm working on. If I talk about a little bit more on my experience here, I came here 4 years ago, around 4 years ago, and I started working for another firm, like my previous firm, Marine Architects. There I learned a lot about the municipality building code, zoning regulations. It is very different of course, in this country, but also specifically in the state. So it was more, the Marine Architects was more focused on these kind of regulations and how to maximize the space and minimizing the budget, I can say, more than the design aspect of the buildings. But it really helped me like learn all these and get ahead of these issues. After that, I switched to this firm a little bit over a year, and this is more design oriented, and we have way more budget, so it's like really fun projects we are working on. Mm-hmm. Before coming here, I'm graduated from Middle East Technical University. I did my bachelor's and my master's there. While I was a student, I took part in projects and internships in different countries, in different specific like construction or sustainability and more office internships. In Baku, Azerbaijan, I worked in Sokar Tower in the construction, from late foundation works to early interior works. After that, I worked in here in Lilium Design as an intern while I was before my senior year as an office intern. And after completing that, I did a student exchange program in Rome, Italy. Mm-hmm. That was a very fun experience also. And then I always wanted to come to New York, and I wanted to work here. Uh-huh. So, I was always trying to find ways to prepare myself, I can say, and be ready for like how I can make it here, or how I can come here, like how the firms can accept me. someone from like abroad. So it is really great in general right now coming here.
Can we actually maybe, Hamide, sorry for interrupting, can we focus a little more on that last part, like moving to New York, getting a job there, how life is there? Probably that's the question in all the minds of 50 people here right now. We would love to hear more about that part, if possible. All of that international experience, it's very exciting. And most of our students are looking forward to work abroad. They already, some of them have international experiences. So they are very much open to working abroad outside of Turkey. So, and you're a perfect example for that. Could you explain, say more about the difficulties, how you took part in those projects? How you got to New York? I'm sure it wasn't super easy, but what were the obstacles and all of it?
I think like aiming to come abroad is a really great goal, I can say. It was for myself, and it can look really exciting from a distance, and it is. It's a really big step in someone's life, I can say, and career. But it is really, it comes with a lot of difficulties. Like when you decide to do this move, you gotta be ready for a lot of obstacles in your way, and you gotta be ready to be patient enough, I can say, to get over all these. First of all, living here, the culture, the work culture, everything is, of course, a little bit different. Even though I came here before as an intern, I thought I was a little bit ahead of it, but it was really like living here and coming for a certain amount of time is not really the same. So like without coming, I don't think it's gonna be really, you won't really understand those. Like even though you think you're prepared, after you come, there's a lot of things that you gotta do and learn along the way, I can say. Should I talk about the culture? What do you guys want to know?
I mean, sure, especially maybe the work culture, because you graduated from Turkey, worked in many different countries from a different cultural spectrum. And I'm sure your comparison of workplace cultures or job application processes, etiquette, all of it would be very helpful.
So when I came here, I already had a portfolio ready. I was going through I was going through online. I was trying to find people who are in places that I want to be, and I was looking through their histories, to be honest. The people that I could relate, I can say like I was looking at some Turkish people also, like to relate, because they are coming from the same background. Obviously, they have similar maybe difficulties. So I was like, when I find those, it was really inspiring for me as well. And I was going through, for example, ISU. I was talking to Hilal yesterday about it. I was going through ISU, portfolio website, and I was finding the ones that I liked, and I was reaching out to people to like understand how I can actually develop myself, or how I can like come here desperately, I can say. And so after I come here, I a little bit modified my portfolio to be in line with what I'm actually looking for, and started applying. But application processes, usually if you are new here and if you don't have any connections, anything, it takes a little bit time. For me, I can say it was really helpful. The internship was really helpful because I already like knew some architects. I already was in connection with some architecture offices. But if not, it's not the end of the world. Like it might mean that you gotta like work in a place that might not like the one for you like right away. But after gaining a little bit United States experience, it really gets opened up. So you gotta be a little bit patient at first, and try to gain any United States, any New York City, like which state, wherever you are, first. And with that experience, people can feel more easy on like hiring you. Mm-hmm. So like at first, you're gonna definitely see that challenge if you are not graduated from, for example, master's here, let's say, because there's also a lot of people like that, and everybody, like it is a very competitive industry, of course, also being here. And I can talk about my interview or my job process a little bit.
Sure.
So for my last job, for example, I created my portfolio. The first office I was working at, it wasn't my like ideal firm, I can say, but it's really, as I mentioned in the beginning, it really added a lot of knowledge that I didn't know, I didn't gain because of my education in Turkey. So like while I worked there for more than 2 years, so having like almost 3 years of a United States experience, really nobody questioned my education. So they only were focused on what I know and what my portfolio showed and what kind of projects that I worked in, and that's all. Of course, while you are going to the interviews, you are taking a portfolio, you're like maybe creating a website, and you're also taking your technical drawing sheets. So like it shows like how much you are, you can like do the technical or like regulation aspect of this. So I don't think that's an issue after like starting a couple of years. And so I created my portfolio for my last job, and I was looking everybody from like this office. Like I stalked everybody, and I looked at you're like professionally stalked, and I looked at their portfolios. I saw that almost everyone had websites, for example, in this case, and everyone like prepared really great online portfolios in this way. And so I decided to create my own website, and I put all my portfolio material in that website to be more presentable, I guess. And that was really helpful because I started first with my regular portfolio and went to a couple interviews, and I noticed like because the technology, people are like here, the architecture offices are really ahead of it. So like everybody expects something a little bit differently. So with the website, it was really, I think, better than a regular one. And they call you for an interview, and it can be like 5 people, 6 people, and like after the interview, it really goes really smooth. I can say like in a couple weeks you learn about it, but like getting that interview, it takes like months. So like you gotta be really I think patient on that also. Like everything is about like patience and not stopping and continuing to like work on the things that you want to achieve, I guess.
So I guess it takes a lot of research about the firm that you want to work at, and trying to design your portfolio, your materials, or for other departments, other materials according to that firm, right?
Of course. Because everyone has like all the offices who are big enough or prestigious enough, I can say, like have a certain culture to themselves, and they want to see how you fit in that culture. It doesn't mean like necessarily manipulating it, but you gotta be you gotta make sure that you're presenting yourself, your parts of yourself that they wanna actually see, I guess, and that is really helpful. Yeah.
So job search is not a passive process where you write your CV, prepare a portfolio, and go directly to the interview.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like you gotta really like work on it
Mm-hmm.
actively. And like there are websites, as in Turkey, like it's very similar. Like there are websites in certain, I can say again, maybe culture. Some are more design websites. These all have like job search boards.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, there was a specific one that I liked, which like the firms that they post here were the type of firms that I would like to work at. So like finding that specific place that you will find those firms, I guess, is the first step. And then you gotta just craft your resume portfolio to like whichever firm that you want to go with. And then you gotta just press, like even after like just the first email, you gotta be really communicative, and they're really looking for each little specific detail before the hiring. For sure.
There are some questions from our students, if you don't mind me reading them to you. Chada asks, could you please give us some advice on getting architectural license there? What can we do beforehand while studying?
That's a very great question. I'm looking at the chat right now.
Yeah.
Because this question is really great, but it's a little bit maybe after the other question.
Okay. Pick the one you like. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
The program is yours.
Thank you. How much does the place you graduate from matter when it comes to architect finding jobs? Could you briefly describe what sort of work you put into your portfolio? Thank you. Great question, Mohit. Like if you graduated from a US college, for example, if you graduated from Cornell, people know Cornell or Columbia right here. So here they know, for example, I was graduated from Middle East Technical University. People know it in Turkey, but nobody knows about it here. So it's, you shouldn't forget that. And you're already graduated from like any of the colleges in Turkey. It's gonna be just a foreign university to the high people in the HR who are gonna hire you, be in the hiring process, or anybody in the office. They will not know. It's just like how much you develop yourself, how much you learn, how much you put it in your portfolio. It's not like, of course, I'm always saying portfolio, but it's like your skill set. How much you develop your skill set, what kind of programs you know, like how good you know them, how much, how's your design skills, what kind of projects you design. These are all the certain parts of what makes a portfolio, right? So these are what are important to them. So it just really doesn't matter if it's not one of the like well-known, like most well-known universities, specifically in the US, because here people are not very well educated about abroad. So
yes, they're not.
Yeah, they're definitely not. So could you briefly describe what sort of work you put into your portfolio? You can go to my website since I created it.
I think if you share a link in the chat, it would be super helpful.
Sure.
I'm sure they would love to.
My website. Name, last name.com. Oh, sorry. I sent it to someone privately. Sorry, I'm not using Zoom a lot.
No, that's perfectly fine. Okay. Yeah, we got it.
So these are the things that I like, whatever is in the website. I think most of them I put in my regular portfolio as well, in my print portfolio, but not all of it. Of course, in the website you have more space, or you can show like whatever you want to show it. So it's a little bit detailed, more detailed. I typically like, before the website, like for any portfolio, I typically try to put like different kinds of projects. For example, some can be competition projects, it can be more experimental. Some like one residential if it's big enough or if it's good enough. Retail, a little bit like different scales, different types, so they can see like all sorts of like wide range of skills that you have. I also try to put like, I like sketching, so I try to put like some sketches. Sometimes like before, like when I was a student, I was putting my photos because I'm really interested in photography. So if you have any skills like can relate to some arts or architecture, you can just throw it in there if you're confident enough that it's gonna represent you. That's all good. Yeah.
Thank you.
So how different was the things you knew from what you were asked to do in the workplace? What does it mean, Aziza?
I think it means, if I may try to interpret it. So a lot of our students in Turkey, and you graduated from Middle East Technical University, so you're probably familiar with that feeling. They sometimes feel like all the things, all the detailed technical information that they learn during their undergraduate studies will not be useful and practical in real workplaces. I think Aziza is trying to ask if that was the case for you.
That's
you learn lots of unnecessary technical information and none of them were needed. Was that the case?
Oh, in school that you need
learn? Yeah, things you learn at school and what you really use.
Not at all. Like, yes and no. Like, I can say that like there isn't any unnecessary information you learned in school. When you graduate, you will see that actually you didn't learn that much. Like whatever technical information you are learning is just to create a base foundation for you. So when you go start working in an office, you can just develop on it. So you are not clueless, you know? So whatever you learn is amazing for you. Like you need to try to get as much as possible, but it's never gonna be enough, of course. Like the first, I can say 5 years of like 5-6 years of your work will be like here. Also going back to Çağda's question, she's asking about architectural license, and the first step of architectural license is internship here, which means like after you graduate, you gotta work for like 4 years in an office, 3-4 years, and it is considered an internship. So that will be also like a continuation of your education, which is like always going, like it will never end. Learning never ends. But how different was the things? I will go back to it again. But you know, but of course, like coming here, if you're also asking about like Turkey and here difference, like our education to practice in here difference, it was very different. The first I can say project that I took part in here when I started Marine Architect, my first office here, was a strip mall. So my boss had a meeting with me and he was telling me about this new project. And he said, look, there's this strip mall that I want you to design. So here is the site and here is gonna, so I was like, what is a strip mall, first of all? Like, I'm not sure if any of you guys are familiar with it, but strip malls are very specific to the United States. And they are these like, I can say low-rise, like couple story high retail buildings right next to each other, like a group. And in the middle, there is a parking lot. It's like from the movies, you know, like that kind of a space. And it's really not super pleasant, but like because there's a huge parking lot in the middle. But how I was thinking, okay, this is kind of a mall. So I'm gonna put like a lot of greens, landscape, if I'm like thinking about the outdoors, you know, like a lot of like gathering areas. So it turned out, no, all of them was parking lot, because that's how it goes here. So I was like, this kind of stuff was very different to learn. But by time, like, it becomes all familiar. So no worries. Now strip malls are all on me. Another question. What are your suggestions for architecture? 1 second, I'm gonna go back to Çağda's question without forgetting about it. Could you please give some advices for getting architectural license here? What can we do beforehand, like while studying? So architectural license is a very, very important thing that architecture students who wanna come to United States should know. So a license it's not like graduating from college kind of license. It is a license to do a profession. So like here in the US, there are some jobs that are considered professional jobs, which is can be like lawyers, doctors, and architects. So, and also engineers. So they can go through a series of steps before getting their sign and seal permits. So when you first come here, even if you're an experienced architect or just a recent graduate, you are not going to be considered an architect. You can be a designer, but you gotta complete all these steps that I'm gonna talk about it in a little bit, and get your license, and then you can be allowed to build buildings or sign drawings, you know. And these steps are first, as I just mentioned, first internship. So there are certain number of hours that you gotta do internship in an office with a supervisor. Supervisor meaning another licensed architect, possibly your boss, and you gotta complete training internship in 6 major categories, them being construction administration, site planning, and so on, like different phases of projects. Also, some being office management or project management, these kind of more soft skills, you know. And after completing these hours of internship, of course, you gotta count your education hours, which is gonna be very important. And after they accept your education, you gotta go through 6 exams from 6 different categories, and you gotta pass them in 5 years. So after completing all these steps, you will be an architect. And like this, the nuances of these rules change from state to state, because, for example, in California, it is a very earthquake key place, I can say. And you gotta know about seismic requirements, for example. Or Miami, they have a lot of, like Florida state, they have a lot of tsunamis, for example, or weather related issues. So you gotta have another exam related to that. So it all differs, and when you apply to one, you apply for a state. So for example, now I'm in the process of getting my license. I'm giving my exams right now in New York State. So when I get my license, I'm going to be licensed in New York State, not New York City, the whole state. But if I want to, for example, build something in New Jersey, which is right nearby, but they have really like somehow different requirements. So I gotta check if they ask like additional exams from me or additional requirements, so I can take those and be also licensed in New Jersey. But if it's not so different, you can just apply. You don't go through the same processes again. you just apply, and if they think that it's like similar, they will give you another license. So that's about it. Which question I was at? İsmet Sayın.
I think Ismet's question is the next one, yeah.
Yeah. What are your suggestions for architecture students? Competitions, programs, websites, works. So my suggestions for architecture students is are keeping your eyes open to opportunities. You can draw your own path, but like I find it helpful to have some competition experience to maybe work with different teams and do something on your own while you're a student. I think it's really exciting, and it can like you can create really different and cool stuff like on the side of your regular like school projects. So I definitely suggest that. Programs, what programs we use are very similar to what I knew when I was a student. Of course, like the level that I know changed a lot, but I think like when you're a student, try to know like as much as program as possible. After that, it's really hard to just start from the beginning and learn a completely new program, I can say. Mm-hmm. But of course, right now, BEAM programs are like the most important ones. The whole world is switching to BEAM systems. So, for example, right now we are mainly using Revit, and when I was a student, I started learning Revit, but it was really restricted, I can say, in a way, especially with how they're not really good with 3Ds, and they were only working in maybe more technical aspects. But now it's really, I think, in another level. So I would definitely suggest learning those. Also, like your visual skills, visualization skills, I can say. We are using a plugin called Enscape with Revit and SketchUp, and it is really a cool speed rendering program, I can say, plugin that we use and for visualization, and we can use it with VR goggles also and go like walk into the space. So this kind of like new technologies, like being open to it is, I think it's more possible also when you are a student. So you just gotta like keep on the look and learn like however much you can learn, I can say. Also, we are using, of course, CAD, Photoshop, like when we need, and some of our consultants use it a lot. So we gotta like have some sort of information about it. That's the base. But yeah, mainly we are using Revit, also Rhino and 3D Max. There are some people using them in the office. I also Rhino. Did I say Rhino? I lost track of it.
Yeah, you did. Rhino.
Okay. I don't use them. Like it depends on like it really changes from project to project. Mainly, most of our projects start in Revit, and if there is like a custom piece that we need to design, we can go back to other programs and design it. And also we have a visualization team in my office right now, and they help with, for example, 3D Max. If we are not going to use Enscape, if we are going to do like more detailed renderings, they also help with 3D Max and some other programs that you use. But for us, like Revit is the must, I can say. Websites and works. Website and works. I use like regular architecture websites like ArcDaily, what's that? Archinect. I really liked Archinect. programs like that, if I remember, I can write here also. Works. I didn't understand this.
Ismet, you can open your microphone and clarify if you like, or type.
I mean, is there any specific works? Maybe we can look at it, or is there any specific point when you are researching the works, like the projects? Thank you.
Yeah, like mainly I typically follow the general like news, what is new around the world, and prominent architects, and also like we use Pinterest a lot in my current office right now, because when you find a cool image or a cool projects, it suggests you like similar projects, you know. So I just get lost in the internet and find them. I can say, yeah.
Thank you, great.
For recent undergraduates, do you think it's best to go for a master's degree or join the workforce as soon as possible? This is the ultimate dilemma. Like, this is yeah. As soon as possible, which is the next right step and more beneficial for your career? It depends. It depends on what kind of a career you want, and where do you want to see yourself in 10 years, maybe. but the thing is, for example, this was a big question for me too. What I was first thinking, so when I was about to graduate, because I wanted to come here to New York so much, I was thinking maybe it's going to be easier. It would be definitely easier if I had like a master's connection, like if I was accepted in a master's program, come here, because like there is a huge issue with work permit here, and you gotta like in a way you gotta gain your work permit if you have to work, right? So so what I did was, even if I wasn't super sure about the answer to this question, I was like thinking maybe if I like apply for masters, I can come here and then easily transition to the workforce from there. Also, I will know more about the culture, you know, it would be like an easier transition. So I applied here. I got accepted from some universities. It's also about your economics, you know. So that path can be possible, but also, so I continued in Ortadoğu Teknik Üniversitesi, Middle East Technical University, but around that time, I was more thinking maybe I should, like, I always wanted to stay in school somehow. I wanted to teach. I really like being in the studio environment and interacting with students. So I was thinking, okay, here our logic is typically, if you want to teach, you gotta have your PhD, right? So you gotta be an academic in a way. Also, you can have some office work, but like somehow you gotta balance them. You need to like put a lot of effort into academics also. So like after I moved here, I learned, I noticed that, for example, here, I don't have to have a PhD. I don't have to like have even a master's, because the license that I was talking about just a little bit ago is enough. Like it's like a PhD level expertise license and when you get it, you can teach and you can be a professor in any university. So my problem was solved in that way, so I didn't continue with academics. But like, I don't know what kind of a dilemma you're like, you know, having. It all depends on that. If you are just thinking masters not as a way to stay in the academics, just as a way to increase your expertise as an architect, it depends on the program a lot, because I feel like in the in the office, you learn a lot as well. Like, it's not because you don't have a master's, it doesn't mean that you don't know as much. Office experience, like 1 year office equals 1 year master's, for sure. Like, and it is like legally accepted like that here also in the licensure process. Even if like here, even if you have an education at all, like, I mean, not at all, like after high school, for example, or if you are graduated from a different college, like different faculty, you are not an architecture student, you are not architecture graduate, you completed business, for example, but then you decided you want to work in the architecture office or you want to be an architect, you can still do it by just working in an office. And they accept it here in the New York State. And I think it's a good way to like show actually how much they can actually replace each other. But of course, like, it all depends on the program, on the office, on your, like, all these factors come into play, you know.
I think that said a lot there. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Aziza has another question. And by the way, we have our last 10 minutes. So if you have any more questions, please go ahead and type them now.
What do you think America, United States, and the West want to see in terms of architecture? Wants to see in terms of architecture, I mean in terms of the trend. For example, do they want to see something futuristic or something? Depends on the client. This is a very client-oriented question. It depends on your client base. It depends on your office culture. You're asking about America, but here America is a big place. Like, there is all kinds of stuff here, and of course, like, the means of design, how you present it, how you show it, how you interact with the client. Of course, they want to be futuristic. They want to be ahead of the trend. They want to, like, everybody wants to use the latest technologies to describe themselves, like show what they are doing, right, in the best way possible. But this is only about like the client interaction. As a end, like as a product, it is just, it depends. But here in New York, it is, I can say, right now our clients like high-end designs more. This is our client base, like how our office like developed their design, client base in time. But like when I go around, look at like all the different buildings, it is a very different, I can say, urban tissue than I'm used to in Turkey. So maybe when you come here and when you experience here more, you will see that as more classical, like the typical might be more classical. A lot of brick buildings. What do you think were the key points in your job application that helped you hired you at your first workplace in US? Key points in my job applications were having an internship. I'm sorry, guys. Like, I really tried to have this very early experience being and working and like experiencing architecture like in the US, so I can get ahead of it, and it really helped me a lot. I can say this is my specific journey. It can really change, but that was, I think, one of the most important things, because in that way I was able to like had more connections, and it went way more smoother than it could have been. But it doesn't mean that it's gonna go bad. It just needs a lot of patience and hard work and passion, I can say. Yeah. Is there any other questions?
There's one last question from Esma Nur. She's asking, what do you think were the key points in your job application that helped you get hired at your first workplace in the US?
That was my the answer to that question, but it wasn't an answer, I know. But Okay, let me think again. Yeah, I think, yeah, as I said before, like your portfolio is very important, your past experience is very important, but till you have a real United States experience, everyone looks at you a little bit with a doubt. So it is the most challenging one is the first one. So like you gotta really do your best, show your best, get really ready for the interview, make the best portfolio that you can do like create, and try to be different, like not in a crazy way, but just like be better. Like you know, you can show, like as I said before, like it can be a website, it can be a different portfolio, it can be interesting projects. Like what is inside that is very important. But when I, for example, with my first portfolio, I remember I went to my interview with my first office, and he was like, these are all good, these are nice designs, but we are not really super interested in those. Like, and I had a huge drawing set, and they were like, we are interested in those. So you gotta really understand the office that you wanna aim at, so you can, you know, you can work for that. So for example, if I didn't have that huge work technical set with me, it would only be my portfolio, which was showing like all these cool diagrams and stuff. But if that's not what they're producing, and if that's not what they're selling to their clients, it will be really irrelevant. So you just gotta try to know the profile of the firm that you wanna aim, and you just focus on that and work for it. And also for the interview, like after you get the interview, it's amazing, good job. But you gotta also sit and work for the interview, because the questions are typically similar, but you gotta use the right words, especially coming from another country. It can be a little bit challenging to, even if you know English really well, culturally some words might mean something else. Like you gotta make sure that you're talking about yourself in the best way, or you're showing yourself in the best way possible. So like just thinking ahead of time, thinking about all this stuff and getting really prepared is just, as anywhere, yeah, important.
Great, thank you very much. I think that's all. And we're almost running out of time. It was super helpful. Thank you very much on behalf of everybody. Thank you for making time for us.
Sure, you can also reach me if you have any questions, any other questions. From my website, you can contact me. I hope it was helpful. I wish you the best of luck. Keep working, keep studying, and learn as much as you can while you are a student, because it will create the best foundation for you, and you are going to develop on top of it. So this is a very important for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hamide.
Thank you, Hilal.
Thank you.
Hope to see you again.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Goodbye. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. Good night. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.